Welcome to a very special edition of the Audible presented by Trader Joe's. A lot of new things to introduce here on the show. I'm Stuart Mandel. I am joined as always by Bruce Feldman, and we are both excited to be joined by our new co-host, frequent friend of the show, ladies and gentlemen, Ralph Russo.
You know, when you say a very special edition of the very special episode of the Audible, my mind flashes back to those very serious sitcoms they would have back in the 70s and 80s. And
it's when Stu gets caught like shoplifting some diet medication.
And then Ralph, you're the friendly policeman who's going to make it all better.
Yeah, it was, oh no, what's happening is going to be really serious this week. That's no fun. Somebody's going to get arrested or somebody's going to die on different strokes. That's not cool. That is not the case here.
No.
That is not the case here. This is
a joyous occasion.
News, I hope. Yes.
Yeah. We are going to talk college football and in particular our playoff predictions here in a little bit, but we got to take a second to acknowledge, Bruce, this has been a day, frankly, months in the making. It is the relaunch of the Audible. Bruce and I have been doing it, just the two of us, since 2014. It's probably the most significant change. Obviously, Ralph being the headliner, but also, I'm sure you already noticed on your phone, new cover art. As the episode came on, you might have heard a new theme song. And now the big change this year, guys, is we are now officially on YouTube. You can actually watch this show. Go to @Audible Show on YouTube, @Audible Show. We will be doing all of our episodes will be on YouTube, and once we get through week one, like the day after the first full Saturday, we will be live streaming our Sunday reaction shows on YouTube. Ralph, how do you feel?
This is awesome. So I haven't also been on the podcast, other than I've been on your podcast as a guest and I've been on other shows. But about a year and a half ago, I stopped doing the podcast that I was doing at AP. I had my own show for a while. Some people might remember that. If you do, awesome. And if you don't, that's okay. And for lots of different reasons, we decided to shut down that show. And I thought it would be reborn in some way, shape, or form sooner. I didn't think I was going to be off the air, so to speak, for 18 months. Then I got a new job and I changed companies and I came here, and it just wasn't a priority to get into the podcast space. I needed to get used to my new gig. So I'm really psyched to be joining you guys because you are my friends and colleagues, people I respect and like, and it was an honor for you to ask me to be on this show. I'm super excited to be here. Again, as I kidded on our promo, you obviously brought me in to, appeal to a younger demographic, clearly to bring a little energy and to the show. So yes. Totally psyched to be here. Totally psyched to have a place to get my takes off.
Okay, so what I thought was a great thing for us to have you on, and you were always one of these, you're always a favorite guest of ours because we obviously respect your work. And that was a big reason why, honestly, Stu and I pushed so hard to make sure we got you hired because you are on top of the news. You're on top of everything. I think, and the function of you being at the AP and their national college football reporter, in addition to running the AP poll, it felt like you were on the clock 24/7, which is invaluable for us. But I think it's kind of your sensibilities. You kind of balance Stu and I out in a lot of ways where I think we can feel like, sometimes Stu and I probably kind of get stale into our stuff, and you can kind of be the voice of reason, with both of us, where we kind of each get maybe stuck in our own lanes a little bit. So that's been awesome. And I think it's fun for us. I know Stu and I feel kind of re-energized about this and how the podcast's going to go. And as Stu said, now that we're on camera the whole time, I was thinking of all the stuff that has gone on with us, never mind your handsome face, Ralph, but like, I will admit this, there was definitely a time or 5 where I probably was folding laundry while the podcast was going on. Or even when we did have a camera, if it was not on camera, I would look and go, there's no way Stu is feeling this way about what we're talking about. He's either getting a dirty joke from Chris Vanini or something else is like making his face light up. It's definitely not the Audible. So now we're on. And for better or worse, you're going to see these faces.
Yeah, Bruce, that's going to be the hardest thing to adjust to, honestly. Not being able to multitask while I'm talking to you. And now I have to actually 100% focus on the conversation on the Audible. Hey, one thing I forgot to mention real quickly, but it's important. We're doing 2 episodes a week right now, as we've been doing throughout August. But starting week 1, starting that Sunday after the Ohio State, Texas, LSU, Clemson games, 3 episodes a week now on the Audible. Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays throughout college football season. I don't know that all 3 of us are going to be on every episode together. Bruce and I are going to keep doing the Sunday show in particular. But yeah, that, Bruce, is a first in the 11-year history of the Audible. I don't know that we've ever done three a week.
Yeah, I think it'll be good because we have a lot to talk about. And I think we have a lot of different perspectives to get into. And it should be fun. I feel like majority of weeks, we will have multiple shows where it's the 3 of us. But we'll see how the schedule plays out.
So just to recap all the changes real quick. New co-host, most importantly, new logo, new theme song, new YouTube channel, new schedule.
New Ralph and new undivided attention from Stu.
Correct. No more multitasking. All right. So, Bruce, it's been predictions galore on The Athletic this week. I've been doing conference predictions. Bruce put out his playoff bracket. Ralph's got a kind of a unique one we're going to talk about here in a second. So I thought we'd start out, guys, given the games start this Saturday. Now or never, who are we picking for the college football playoff? I just want the 12 teams, not this seed versus that seed. And we'll let Bruce start since he is live.
Okay, so I was kicking this around basically since the spring, but I have Clemson winning it all. I thought it was going to be Clemson against Texas, but the further I got into it, the more people I talked to, I'm like, you know what? I'm going Clemson playing Penn State for the national title game. The wild card situation for me is after all the chatter, especially from the Big Ten, about having automatic bids and maybe a 24 or 2018 playoff, I only have 2 Big Ten teams making it. Wow. And I think that definitely ruffled some feathers. Ralph, it's ruffling your feathers, I see by that like chagrin look on your face.
I'm just afraid now the Big Ten is going to demand like a 36-team playoff.
I mean, you are almost there at this point.
Yeah, they're getting closer. So here's, before I get into the rest of them, the thing that I knew was going to get a little bit of blowback, and when the story was online before I was this morning, was, wait, you don't have Oregon making the playoff? And no, I don't. Look, last year I had Oregon winning it all, in part because I had a lot of confidence in the offense, and certainly you had in Dylan Gabriel a quarterback who fit the offense and had played a lot of college football. Right now, I don't feel that confident in the offense. I mean, I think Will Stein's one of the best offensive coordinators in college football, but Dante Moore is really a first-time starter. He played a little bit at UCLA. It was not great. I think he will have a good career there, but I'm not ready to say that this team, without Evan Stewart, I know they have DeCorian Moore, who's a super talented, true freshman receiver. I know they have Kenyon Sadiq, who's one of my freaks list guys at tight end. He's the elite. But I am a little bit hesitant on them. And so we can get into this. We'll talk more about Oregon probably in a little bit. But as I went through the list, I had as many Big 12 teams as I did in Big 10. I have Iowa State winning the conference, and I have Arizona State getting in. I have Clemson and Miami both getting in. And then I had from the SEC, I have LSU, Alabama, and Texas, not in that order. And then the 4th school I have is Georgia. And I actually had a opening round matchup of Carson Beck from now at Miami facing Georgia in the first round in that lovely 8-9 game. And the 12th team I have, was Boise State. One of my sources who's very connected at Boise State said, yeah, Ashton Dempsey was great. They got 3 really good running backs, including a guy from Fresno State who nobody can tackle. And so I think they're going to be the best bet to get in out of the power conferences.
All right, what you got, Stu?
Okay. I am, Bruce and I actually agree on a couple things there. I also do not have Oregon in there for all the same reasons Bruce said. And also, I mean, look, Dan Lanning's won a lot of games his first 3 years there, so it's hard to nitpick much. They've had the explosive offenses. The defense, I think there's been this assumption that, well, these guys, Van Lanning, Tosh Lupoy, they're going to have an SEC, Alabama, Georgia type defense. They don't. They have some great players, don't get me wrong, especially in the pass rushers. But, you saw in the Big Ten title game and then against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, it's not an elite defense. And so if the offense does take a little step back this year, and I think they will, it's not the most crazy thing in the world to think they might slip to 9-3. The only thing is, Bruce, I don't know if an 18-team conference can only have 2 teams in the playoff. I don't even know if that's mathematically possible. But I have 3. I have Ohio State, Penn State, and my surprise team for the playoff field, Iowa, who finally has a quarterback to go with that great defense. I have 5 from the SEC. I have
5.
I think that, how you said, like, there's a little bit of karma in terms of them, the Big Ten proposing. I think there might actually be karma, too, in that all the crowing, and understandably so, right? Back-to-back national titles. If you've been sick of hearing about the SEC's dominance, it's a refreshing storyline to say now it's the Big Ten. Well, it's not. I mean, the Big Ten, the top of the Big Ten has definitely been as good or if not better than the SEC the last couple of years, but I don't think it's the SEC still gets all the NFL players, the best recruits, they spend the most money, and they've still got, I think, the most depth. So here, I'm just going to simplify it. 1 Penn State, 2 Texas, 3 Alabama, 4 Notre Dame, 5 LSU, 6 Ohio, 6 Texas A&M, my other surprise team, 7 Ohio State, 8 Clemson, 9 Iowa, 10 Arizona State. I did not necessarily expect to pick them to repeat, but as I got more into the Big 12, it's like they've got Sam Leavitt, they've got Jordan Tyson, they've got the most experience, and I don't know, maybe Texas Tech's the most talented now. We'll see. But otherwise, I think they're the most talented in that conference. I got Georgia getting in at 9-3 with the last at-large spot. And then I'm going with Tulane to shake things up as the group of 5 team. Getting Jake Retzloff was a nice pickup, but also they actually have a nice little opportunity to impress the committee. They have 3 Power 4 games early, and 2 of them are very winnable. Northwestern and Duke coming there, and then they're at Ole Miss. So if they can win a couple of those, I think it vaults them to the top of the group of 5 pecking order. Oh, and I have Penn State as my national team.
So generally speaking, I like where your heads are at. Got, went a little outside the box, thinking a little more about maybe the team that we all think will get in will not get in. So I'm not necessarily going to give you my picks, or maybe I will at the end of this. But last year, when I was still running the AP poll, I did some research to try to come up with a way to use preseason rankings and final college football playoff rankings to see if we can find a pattern, right? A pattern of which teams, not necessarily which specific teams, but which groups of teams make the playoff. So, 10 years of college football playoff rankings, 10 years of preseason polls, and you just sort of match the 2 up and try to see which teams generally get in. And frankly, last year, that formula, and when I say formula, very unscientific, my wife, the epidemiologist, would not pass it if it was up for like scientific muster. It would definitely not pass that. But it did pretty well. It did pretty well last year. Again, not picking specific teams, but specific groups of teams. So I'm going to force you guys to use this formula because it ends up making things a little more interesting and creative. But the whole point of the thought exercise is we go into the season and we tend to focus very much on, well, I need to pick a 12-team playoff. Let me look at the top 15 or 20 teams and pick 11 of those and a G5 team. And I like the fact that you picked in Iowa, right? That an unranked team.
There's going to be a couple of those teams. There just is.
Well, and Bruce, I like the fact that we talked about Oregon maybe not making it because, again, we got to break out of this mindset that they're the 8th ranked team in the country and they were so good. How could they not make it? Well, last year, Alabama lost to Vanderbilt, folks, and didn't make it. And Ole Miss lost to Kentucky and didn't make it. We need to be thinking a little more creatively. So the formula goes like this, and we'll have a link to it in the show notes if you want to follow along. But the formula goes like this. Look at the AP top 25, preseason top 25. Pick 4 teams out of the top 5. Eliminate 1 top 5 team. So that's 4 teams. 4 of the top 5 teams will make the playoff. You get to choose which one you eliminate, but 4 of the top 5 teams. Then pick 2 from 6 through 10. Then pick 2 more from 11 through 20. Then pick another one from 21 through 25. A lot of numbers here. I hope I'm going slowly enough. And then pick 3 unranked teams, because generally over the years, you actually get 3 unranked teams. 3 teams start the season unranked and make the playoff. If you kind of use what a 12-team playoff would have looked like in the 4-team era. And
so last year that was Indiana, SMU,
Arizona State, and
Arizona State.
Last year, the one place where the formula was a little off is there were 4 unranked teams and no team 21 through 25. 4 of the top 5 made it. 2 of the 6 through 10 made it. 2 of the 11 through 20 made it. I'm not saying that's happening again, but I'm just saying you need to be a little more creative with your pick. Not just you guys, but in general. Dear listener, when you're sitting down, don't be chalky. First of all, it's boring. Secondly, you're almost as likely to be wrong with chalk as you are to be a little more creative. So think outside the box a little bit. I did the exercise again. Now, I must admit, my official picks that I went to our editors with, I had a hard time eliminating one of the top 5. I wanted to eliminate Georgia.
Well, Ralph, why don't you just if you feel so strongly about this tier, and I like it, I like this tier system, why not make that your quote-unquote official ballot?
Yeah, I know. Well, no, anything can be my official ballot, right? Because I have a story on The Wire that actually uses the formula, so that's my official ballot. From now on, that's my official ballot. And in that one, I eliminated Penn State from the top 5. My top 4, yes.
Ralph, you did a really extensive story on James Franklin. Was this because of the feedback that you just wanted to snub that school?
No, it's weird because actually coming out of that story on Franklin, and that was I'll give a little pub for, read it on The Athletic. Is James Franklin underappreciated or overrated? Where I came out is we're going to find out by the end of this year. But the point was I needed to eliminate one. So I eliminated Penn State. I think I had Oregon, and of course I don't have it in front of me now, and I'm afraid I'm going to click on this.
Can I stop you there while you sort this out?
Of course. Yes.
Stu's got Penn State winning the national title. I've got them playing for it. To me, they are, and I'm not to step on Stu here, but they're a team with almost everything to fall in love with. Experienced quarterback with talent. Hopefully he's going to take the next step. True terrific running backs, a really good offensive line, a ferocious defense. Now with 2 terrific coordinators, Andy Kotelnicki on offense, and now you get the guy who helped help Ohio State win the national title, who knows the Big Ten really well, and Jim Knowles on that side of the ball. Unless you're just saying, hey, James Franklin's never going to win one. So why did you get them? Why did you say, hey, they're not going to, they're a top 5 team, but they're the one I least buy in?
Yeah, I think it was more of start looking through the schedule and I could find myself thinking well, what if they lose to Oregon, Ohio State, and at Iowa? Right? That all seems not that crazy. And again, my point of this is not to necessarily say like defend your picks, is to think outside the box. If you want to eliminate Georgia, that's cool. Eliminate Georgia. If you think this is the year Ohio State finally goes off the rails, that's fine. Go with that. You know, my 6 through 10s were Oregon and Alabama. My 11 through 20 was Texas A&M and Michigan. My 21 through 25, hey, Texas Tech is sitting right there. I'll slide them in as the Big 12 champion, and they'll be 21 through 25. And my 3 unranked teams were Tulane, Nebraska. Oh yeah, that was it. I was like, oh wait, what if Nebraska beats Penn State? Then we can get Penn State on out of there, right? If I'm buying into Nebraska, maybe I should take it away from Penn State. So I had Nebraska, Louisville, and Tulane as my 3 unranked teams. And I don't care if that's right, but it's definitely fun. And maybe we can have you guys do that. Maybe we'll take a little break here, and then I'll force you guys to make a bracket using those rules. You're being bold, and I love being bold. I don't know that this would be the one. We had a mailbag question on here, I think a couple weeks ago, from a Penn State fan basically saying national title or bust. So if they miss the playoff entirely, James Franklin might not be allowed back. I don't know. But yeah, Bruce and I, we did this fun little exercise too, and we will get to it right after this break. Well, needless to say, Penn State was not my top 5 team being left out. And yeah, I mean, the most surprising thing about that, Ralph, is if you're looking through schedules, I would think the easiest team to eliminate is Georgia. Because as you saw in my real playoff bracket, like they were my last at-large team in. I had them going 9-3, and obviously, depending on who the rest of the field is, that they could easily miss it at 9-3. So okay, so we're booting Georgia.
Booting Georgia.
Stu's kicking the dogs to the curb.
Keeping Texas, Penn State, Ohio State, and Clemson.
Okay.
My 2 from 6 to 10, Notre Dame, who I feel very good about, even with the uncertainty, even though it took a little longer than expected to name CJ Carr as their quarterback. And Alabama, who I have bouncing back in a big way this year. 2 from 11 to 20, Arizona State, number 11, was pretty easy since I think I have them winning the Big 12. And then, as I said earlier, Texas A&M, the surprise team. I did Tulane in my quote-unquote real bracket, but since I needed somebody from 21 to 25, I wanted Boise. It's not going to be surprising at all if Boise's that team again. Okay, 3 unranked. Iowa, Missouri, and Utah.
Nice. I like that. I had Utah ranked in my preseason top 25, and I know Missouri's got a pretty nice schedule. So yeah, I'm on board with all those. And by the way, I also didn't have Notre Dame in that bracket too. Like I distracted you guys by having Penn State, by also not having Notre Dame. But a theme for this season, right? All these new quarterbacks, one of these guys is not going to be good, right? One of these uncertain quarterbacks, and we've listed about a half dozen of them, new starters and in very good
Hunter
teams.
Stockton.
Julian Sayin finally won the job this week.
I. Simpson. Yeah, I mean, what if we all assume Ohio State, they'll reload, right? They have Jeremiah Smith. They have Cardinal Tate. Well, what if it turns out Julian Sayin's not ready? What if he's an interception guy? Because I don't know that they're going to have a great running game.
Yeah, so for me, I'm similar to Stu. I also did not. Georgia was the one omit for me. I did have them make it in the playoff in my original bracket, but in this format, I do not. A little bit of hesitation on the combination of Gunnar Stockton and the OC there. Just, I don't know. I'm not all the way in on them.
Not bought in on Mike Bobo?
No, I just think that the combination there, I'm not expecting
fireworks. They had
fireworks.
real good when they had Todd Monken, that's for sure.
Yeah. So my 2 out of the back half of the top 10, I have Alabama. I went down there and saw them last week. I like Ty Simpson. I think he's going to fit well. They have a really good offensive line. I think they'll be better on defense because they're deeper. And the other team I have is Miami, in part because I really do like the quarterback fit there. Carson Beck is very, very talented. They have a really good offensive line. I think Jordan Lyles will be a breakout star this year in the ACC, the running back for Miami. And I think they will be much better on defense. They stunk last year on defense. I think Corey Heatherman will improve that. This part of it got a little tricky for me. I'll be honest, the 11 through 20. I had ASU, no explanation there. I think Florida is pretty good. I don't have them making the playoff because their schedule is so rough. I do worry a little bit about, can DJ Lagway still stay healthy? Because I feel like every time there's a report out of there, it's something that gives you a little pause. I think their D-line is loaded, and they're people don't talk about enough about how good they are and how physical they're going to be. I could see them making the playoff. My 21 through 25, that fit for me. I got Boise State. And then this other part of it, the unranked, right now, Scott Docterman is probably feel like there's a bad juju around him because Stu and I are both touting the Hawkeyes, especially Stu, after his sordid history
Scott is
with
on
Kirk
board
Ferentz.
too. We did
He
the
may
both.
be, but now that you're on the bandwagon, you're kind of the mush when it comes to things in Iowa City. So I think it's I don't know if the Iowa fans want you or me on the bandwagon, but we are like Mark Gronowski, who was terrific, in the Missouri Valley. And I think he's the best quarterback they've had there in a long, long time. I think, like Stu, I like Tim Lester and some of the stuff he did last year as the new offensive coordinator. I think they got some things fixed. They also get, and again, I want to kind of put a button on this with Oregon. Oregon has to go there to Kinnick in November. That's a tough place to play at that time of year, especially with a veteran quarterback. Oregon also has to go to play Washington. And I'll be honest, I know this isn't, something we talked about before, but I think all of us each feel like Washington's going to take the next step. I have more confidence in Damon Williams than right now I do in Dante Moore, of the new quarterbacks who are breaking out there. And then my other teams, Nebraska and Auburn. I hesitant a little bit on Auburn because I feel like it's a boomer bust vibe with Freeze there. But they do have an experienced O-line. They have really good receivers. I'm just curious what the quarterback play is going to look like.
Yeah,
Auburn,
so I'll say...
could really throw a wrench in things.
Auburn is definitely a big boomer bust quality there. I didn't realize I was stepping into a Hawkeye State Homer podcast, but, okay, that's fine,
Well, Iowa and Nebraska are bitter rivals, and somehow we managed to prop up both.
There's another place where there's a fair amount of volatility, I think, among a lot of the really good teams up front. There's a lot of very good teams that are replacing a lot of their offensive line. Oregon, again, fits into that category. Georgia,
Texas,
Ohio State,
does.
Texas, absolutely.
Texas is
LSU does. LSU does.
Yeah.
They have to replace 4 guys who are in the Senior Bowl, no less.
Ralph, who's your national champ?
My national champ right now is Texas.
Yeah.
I went to Austin during the spring and totally got burnt orange pilled. I'm completely on board with the whole experience, and I think that they do a good job of reloading that offensive line. Kyle Flood's a good offensive line coach. They do a good job developing. Hey, what the hell? I just wrote a column about how Texas is becoming the new Alabama, the reload program, which of course did tremendous numbers and really drove a ton of conversation among especially Aggies. I think they really love that. Though I've been giving the Aggies a ton of love too, by the way, this offseason too. I picked the Aggies to make the playoff.
There's always a team that's ranked. Like Florida State was this team last year, frankly. Everybody said, they're going to reload. They'll be fine. They're Florida State. They're Texas. And then you come out week 1, you're like, what was I thinking? They lost their whole offensive line.
Can I say it was for me, it was week 2 with Florida State when they played Bill O'Brien's BC team, and it was just they were coming unglued from all parts.
That wasn't a fluke against Georgia Tech. Yeah, I mean, I'm very high on Texas, but if they come out week 1 at Ohio State and give up 8 sacks, we're all going to be coming back on this podcast like, oh God, what were we thinking?
We shouldn't, though. We shouldn't. We learned last year with Ohio State, it is a long season. Yeah. I do expect Ohio State to beat Texas. It's at home. They have a lot of athletes on that defense. They have probably the best defensive player in the country in Caleb Downs. And you have a new DC. So I think it's a little bit of speculation of what Texas is going to see. And again, a new starting quarterback with 4 new starters, and the go-to receiver is going to be new. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I think Texas in November, not to prop Ralph up too much, but I think Texas in November is going to look a lot different than Texas.
Yeah, probably so.
August 30th.
You said there's a new Alabama, Ralph, and there were a lot of years where everybody wrote off Alabama lost to Ole Miss week 3 or week 4, and everybody's like, the dynasty's over. And then they would, as Nick Saban's teams often do, get better and better and better over the course of the season.
Yeah, in fact, I think in my official picks, whatever you want, I don't know. Maybe I don't have official picks. You guys were the ones that had to put them on the Athletic, so maybe I don't have official picks. But I think in my official picks, I had Alabama winning the SEC and Texas winning the national championship. So sort of taking a page from what we saw last year, where they don't peak necessarily during the season, but they peak in the postseason. I just think that's our new reality, right? I mean, that's what we have to get adjusted to. And again, I want everybody to get adjusted to thinking a little outside the box on playoff picks. Now watch, this year it'll be super chalky, right? We'll end up having...
This is not on paper. This is not set up to be that kind of year, specifically because so many of the top teams are breaking in new quarterbacks, right? To me, that's a recipe for chaos. Because we're guessing. We think Ty Simpson will be good. We think Julian Sayin will be good. Bruce and I are skeptical of Dante Moore. Maybe it'll be the other way around. You just don't know.
Yeah, and something you'll hear a lot from me as a co-host on this podcast. I love to look at the numbers, almost to Bruce's chagrin, and he'll often call me out. Well, what does those numbers mean? But if you look at our buddy Bill Conley at ESPN, his SP Plus ratings, the top 11 teams, I think it is, or 10 to 12 teams are separated by 7 points in his rankings. That's a lot closer than we've had over the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, there were years where you'd have the difference between number 3 and number 5 was 7 or 8 points. So a lot of things are aligning to make this season somewhat volatile. And that's what we want, right? Because that's what was fun. What the most fun thing, or one of the most fun things about last year, was Indiana making the playoff. I mean, we want those things in college football.
I can see Bruce smirking a little bit because he hates the numbers. He hates.
No, I don't hate
Bill Connelly.
I don't hate Bill Connelly by any stretch. I don't hate the numbers. I think the hard thing with numbers is, unlike baseball or something with a big sample size, I feel like it's harder to read too much into it because you just have a lot of variance in this sport, and that's why I'm like, of all the sports, this one is the toughest, and it's the one, honestly, we're all the most, in bed with and around, but it's the one that is just the most, and this is a good thing, I think, by the way, that is the most wildly unpredictable. The other day we talked about what is our favorite things about the sport. And one of my favorite things about the sport is just that something crazy is going to happen every Saturday on a game you probably didn't plan on watching.
All right, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to round this out with, this is week 0 coming up. And Bruce has an interview with one of the potential stars of week 0.
All right, guys, as Stu said, it is week 0. Obviously, big game in Ireland, Iowa State, K-State. The game that I'm going to be around on Saturday for Fox, I'm in studio. It is Fresno State against Kansas. I'm not shilling the game just because it's a Fox game. I'm actually want to talk about the biggest star in the field, and that is Jalon Daniels. He is one of my favorite players to follow, and it dates back a couple of years ago. So I had met him at Big 12 Media Days. It was 2023. It was at AT&T Stadium, and he was just kind of this magnetic personality. But when we got into the conversation, it was really fascinating because the more we talked about his path, it really kind of drew me in because he wasn't a big recruit. He actually didn't even have any stars on in the recruiting ranking until right before his senior year of high school, even though he'd already won a state championship in Southern California. He's in the same recruiting class. These are the first 2 top ranked recruits in that class, DJU and Bryce Young. And oh, by the way, CJ Stroud, another Southern California 5-star, was also in that class. So he was very far off the radar, even though he was around the radar, so to speak. So as we talked about it, it was really about his journey and how he played the long game. Did you say, all right, it's not my time, or you're just like, I'm as good as them? How did you see, that's hard for a kid.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's hard to be able to see guys that are your age getting all of this notoriety and accolades and everything, but I was looking back like, I ain't did what they did yet, so why should I even have what they have? Like, Bryce Young started since freshman year, went to Cathedral, did what he had to do there, transferred to Mater Dei, and still did what he had to do there at Mater Dei. C.J. Stroud balled all as long as he did at Rancho Cucamonga, and then DJ Ulele. He took over after his freshman year, took over as a starter his freshman year. I actually went against DJ before he started his freshman year. We were both on freshmen, Narbonne versus Bosco, and then I think like less than 4 or 5 weeks after I played him, he was a starter at Bosco.
Did you guys win that game against Bosco?
Oh, no. Oh, no. That freshman team was crazy. I mean, they had people like I forgot that receiver name. He plays for Oregon now, but they had a lot of people on that team. They had Bo Collins on that team as well. Yeah, that team has some people.
What was the score roughly? Do you remember?
I couldn't even tell you.
How'd you do in the
game? A lot
game?
to a little. A lot to a little.
All right, so obviously it's a really unique dynamic that he had. Now, why this story resonated with me so much and why his did is, as you guys know, I coach my son Ben in youth football and have for like 5 years. And so youth sports is awesome. Stu, you coach your daughter, I know, in softball, but it's also can be kind of frustrating and mind-numbing and just, you see all sorts of it, especially if your kids really loves the sport even more than you do. And so it is hard not to play the comparison game. Kids and people develop differently at different stages. There's all sorts of circumstances that factor in, especially in social media now, it adds on top of it. So to hear how his mom and he were able to stay grounded and just not give up, not get down, not stay discouraged. You can get discouraged, but not stay discouraged. Play the long game. And then as he put it to me when I saw him this summer, I was like, "You're back at Big 12 Media Days." He goes, "Yeah. 4th time." He's got to be the only college football player in history who's going to do 4 conference media days. Because in this day and age, you're probably not good enough to get there when you're young. And even if you are, then you probably leave or you transfer or God knows what else. So, the story that we have on Jalon's going to run later this week. I think it's for any parent who has coached their child or just watched their child in youth sports. I think a lot of it will resonate because as I was explaining it to my editor, I was like, to be honest, I think I learned one of the best lessons in parenting I ever got was from Jalon Daniels.
So this is interesting because I'm a little ahead of you guys on the parenting cycle, even though we're all around the same age. My daughter is, by the way, heading back to school at Pitt. So you got the right shirt on there, Bruce. I don't know if that was a mistake or just a coincidence. So my daughter is going into her 2nd year at Pitt. She was not an athlete, so I didn't deal with the youth sports thing going up. But my daughter is a college student. So I often now, when I deal with the players that we deal with, I find myself going, this person is like my daughter's age. So when I'm talking to the athletes now, in many ways, I view them the way I view my daughter and think of like how she deals with, as you said, like comparing yourself to people, wondering if you're a kid who can deal with adversity, especially, again, in the social media age. My daughter has always been pretty good about being grounded about how she uses social media. But even when she got to college last year for the first time, she admitted to me and my wife, for the first time, I found myself looking at Instagram and looking at TikTok and going like, I wonder why my life isn't like that. Or is my life as good as it should be? Am I doing enough? So, again, having a daughter who's college age, it just has very much given me a different perspective on how I cover these kids. And I don't mean that to be demeaning because they are young men. And they are, doing things that I could have never dreamed of doing at their age. But it does give you a little perspective on how old they are, what some of the pressures that are in their lives, and how they process simply being young adults in a time when there's a ton of scrutiny, even on the kids who aren't on the playing field, even on a kid like my daughter, who's just a 2nd-year engineering student. She feels a certain amount of scrutiny and spotlight that comes from the world around her.
It's wild to think when you said, Ralph, the guys you're covering now are your daughter's age. Like when I first started out, when I was 23, 24, I was covering players who were my age. We were about the same age. In fact, Chris Winkie, who I covered a lot at the time, was considerably older than me at the time. So
Right.
my daughter's 9. I'm not there yet. I'd also just really quick like to correct something you guys said. We are not around the same age. I'm very proud to be the only one on this show who's still in his 40s, at least for a little while longer. And I get all these reminders. This is what I'm looking forward to about this show, Ralph. I get all these reminders every day about how old I am. But then I come on this show and it's like I'm a kid again. So I appreciate that, with you coming
Ouch.
on and adding to that dynamic.
Wow, a sharp stick in the eye from the guy in leisure wear all the time. How did this happen?
Hey, I'm the only one here wearing it has a collar.
It's a good
First
point. You're
episode
the
on
one who
camera,
dressed
I'm the
up
only
for
one
the
that thought to
show.
put on a shirt with a collar. How about that?
Appreciate that, by the
This
way.
is going to be fun. You can already tell, Bruce said it right at the beginning. Like this is refreshing. This is a pep in the step of the Audible after 11 years. Again, you can, obviously the Audible is still going to be available everywhere you've always gotten it. But now we are on YouTube as well. Make sure to subscribe. Go. What do the kids say? Smash that subscribe button. You got a daughter who's probably on YouTube a lot. At Audible
Yes, she
Show.
is.
At Audible Show.
She was giving me a whole bunch of grief for being like, wait, you're a YouTuber now? Like, you're
Guys, enjoy the college football games this weekend, and we will see you back on Tuesday.